Welcome to Happily Ever Aftermath.
The podcast where we discuss relationships in movies and our relationships with them.
I'm Polina Grinbaum.
And I'm Diana Rojek-Sconard. Hey, it's Diana. We're going to be talking about my big fat Greek wedding, but it's actually going to be broken up into two parts. This is part one right now, and hope you really enjoy. We had a lot to talk about. Check out part two. Hey. This is Diana over here.
And Polina.
And we're talking my big fat Greek wedding.
We are.
Yes, we are.
We are.
This is my pick.
I'm committed.
And this was kind of a head trip for me. Watching this movie, and I was wondering, I wonder how much this is not going to hold up, and because this movie's 15 years old. Yep. And
it's topical too that we're discussing it, because it isn't my big fat Greek wedding 2. Isn't that coming out soon?
No, that was out like a long time ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Whoops. Okay. Okay, so this is weird. I think I'm maybe the only person, one of the few people in America who has not seen this movie until now.
Yeah.
I did not see it until now.
And
I'm not really sure what I was doing in 2002 that made me too busy to see this movie, but I never saw it.
I'm going to paint a picture for you.
Okay.
2 pictures. Number 1, my big fat Greek wedding. So now that Polina has seen this movie, I'm going to speak to no one because now everyone has seen this movie. But this movie, a young Greek woman falls in love with a non-Greek and struggles to get her family to accept him while she comes to terms with her heritage and cultural identity, from 2002. So that means I was a very... was 19 years old. I was in a year into my first relationship. Okay. Not my first long-term relationship. No, my first relationship. Okay, sorry, my first romantic relationship. Okay. And the picture, if you will, young, and by young I mean 19-year-old Diana is dating very tall, very blonde, very pale, current husband now, but all new, all interesting. I get to walk into this movie. I come from a Catholic family, a participating Catholic family, we'll say. Yeah. And, oh, wow. Oh, so much is flooding through me right now. My mom is the middle of 9. My dad is the middle of 5.
Wow.
And all these little things.
I didn't actually know that they were that big. I mean, I guess you've mentioned uncles and cousins, I just never really did the math.
Well, why would you? Because we used to have a joke on one side of my family. They would laugh because they were big Sopranos fans and like, oh my God, you actually have an Uncle Junior? And I'm like, yeah, he's my Uncle Junior. That's what happens. You name somebody, never mind. This is a big thing for you. So I'm going to let you have this moment. So it's big family. We have a big family.
Now, did you see this with your husband?
Thanks for asking. I saw this movie 3 times in the theater.
Really?
I saw it, oh God, friends. He saw it once in the theater with me.
Okay. Not the first time.
No, not the first. Well, no.
Who did you see it with the first time?
Just my really good friends, my best friends at the time. Okay. I don't know if I have the permutations down, but I think it was once with the friends, once with him, and then maybe again with the same friends. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah, because I from what I remember, a lot of the return, they had this is one of the quote unquote according to
the internet.
The internet.
I cite my sources.
No, it's oh my God, why am I spacing on the name? But it doesn't really matter. According to this is like one of the leggiest movies. Like it was a
$5 million budget, and it made over $300,000.
Yeah. And it was million. I mean,
sorry, did I say that? It made over $300,000.
$1,000. I mean, it's amazing
from my own household.
Yeah. So if you times that by how many households are in America, no, we and you minus Sean and I who have never seen it. So I
300 and something million.
Yeah. So
the highest grossing romantic comedy.
But it basically didn't have a great. It had a pretty decent opening weekend actually, but then it just stayed on for a long time. So there was a lot of repeat people.
So for you millennials who listen to podcasts, please understand that there was a time a movie would come out and it would stay in the movie theater for longer than 3 weeks.
But it wouldn't actually stay that long. That's the thing. This movie stayed because according to this article I read, this movie stayed because
It was in the movie theaters for 52 weeks.
yeah, which is like kind of a record actually.
I think so.
Yeah, or like close to it.
Well, no, here's my point. Hey, I want to see that movie. Oh, it just came out 2 weeks ago. It's gone.
Yeah.
No, this 52 weeks
did happen. I mean, there were lots of movies that came and went, but
Plana,
yeah,
we're old, so we remember these things.
That we remember that movies like they just went faster. Anyway, regardless, this movie stayed in the theater for a long time, which is so what we're saying is it was very common at the time to re-see this movie. It was a movie people
that's
revisited.
the point you were trying to
That's
make.
the point I'm trying to make.
I
so let's just get to it.
I thought you were trying to make the point of it was so popular it stayed in the theaters. That was what I was getting at. It was so damn popular it stayed and stayed and stayed for a year.
Yeah.
Because people wanted to see it. Oh, you're talking about rewatchability. I was talking about it's still around.
But both are true, yeah.
Bonus, it never made number one for a weekend.
Yeah, I read that in the same article, but it actually lasted anyway. So a movie a lot of people obviously rewatched, including you.
I did. But what's funny is that
So it wasn't unusual.
Well, I bought it on DVD and I watched it once and then it just kind of collected dust until.
Oh, see, that's interesting.
Well, that's just me. That's not really that, but I think it's because it had such a big impact on me at the time. It had its time. It went, and rewatching it again, it all came flooding back to me, and it was so great because I thought this is gonna be so over the top and ridiculous, and it was, but I still really liked it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Although I will say that the very first line, her dad, "You look so old," I'm like, oh, that makes me sad.
Oh,
because. That's just, I don't know. I mean,
well, it's supposed to make you sad, right? I mean, it makes her sad. No, she's very sad.
Sad in the whole, like, back then that was funny. But now it's, that's just bad parenting right there.
Well, was it funny back then, or did it feel like
it was
bad
funny.
Parenting?
It was dang funny.
Okay.
All that, in fact, some of the stuff.
I mean, it was funny that he's been saying, like, I like the line where, I mean, it's not funny on its own. It's when she says, I've been saying that since I was 15. That was great. So what was it that came flooding back?
Oh, okay. So just going through the story, she's a frump girl. That's a line that comes up later on. But no, she's kind of frumpy. She's 30 years old, and she works with her family in their restaurant. And so just watching her, what came flooding back is just like, oh yeah, I was also a late bloomer. First boyfriend, I was 19 or 18 at the time. And so I'm just kind of watching her go through these interesting transitions of being with your family, being part of that whole thing, being just a little girl, even though you're in your 30s, and trying to figure out where you want to go. So I'm in college at the time, but I went to a community college. So I still lived with my parents.
Yeah.
And I...
As did she.
Yes, she did, but she was 30 and went back, whereas I went straight out of school.
Yeah.
Straight out of high school. And so just watching this whole thing and watching slowly kind of inch your way away from the big, important things that mattered in your family. But as you step away and you start to pay attention to what your friends do, like when I was in elementary school, this is something that popped into my head. I thought it was strange that my friends didn't go to church on Saturday nights. I'm like, wait, what? Yeah. That doesn't make any sense to me. What, do you go on Sunday mornings? Like, because they have masses on Sunday mornings, so I guess they do Sunday mornings instead of. And they're like, no, we don't go to church. I'm like, I don't understand. Yeah, you're not Catholic? Are you? What is that, like? Episcopalian? I don't,
yeah.
Just kidding. I didn't know what an Episcopalian was. Yeah.
I found that it was very confusing when we came to the U.S. I'm like, I could never really figure out, like, we're like, wait, is that Protestant? It was actually only, I mean, this is kind of embarrassing, but it was only much later, and when I was a religions minor, that I was like, oh, okay, I get how this happened. This is making a ton more sense now.
I had a friend of mine, I think it was 15 years old. She brought me to her church youth group, and it was just really different and really just interesting. And one of the music people came up to me and just gave me a big hug and said, Jesus loves you. And I'm like, I know. I'm aware. But see, that's the.
But why?
No,
like,
that's the.
So they wouldn't say. Yeah, they wouldn't say Jesus loves you.
No. Catholics, we're there. We know, but we don't talk about it.
We don't need to talk about it.
No, we don't talk about it. He's right up there. He's up on the cross. We're fine.
Yeah, it's just always, that was very, yeah. I think, well, because one thing that this movie talks about being in a, big immigrant family. And I have to say, I just will say up front, I did not enjoy this movie at all. I have some issues with it, but
What?
yeah.
You mean to tell me something? Yeah, duh.
I mean, well, but
rewatched-
that's a minority opinion.
No,
like,
no,
there's nothing. It's not. This is not a hip, cool opinion. It's just like
No, Polina, this is not, I experienced this and this is my life. It was, I found these little key things that were essential to me that I decided to rope onto as important. But as somebody who actually lived an immigrant life, I see many things to take offense to.
Yeah, and it's not even offense actually. But I mean, there's that. But
I'm not offended if you took offense.
Well, so rewatching it, I mean, she is Greek. The woman who wrote this is Greek and stars in it, and so I kind of got over those parts, to be honest. I was
Greekness?
well, just the parts where I was like,
share
should I
something?
take offense?
But
it's actually other things that kind of bug me about the movie. But
in general, as a woman, there's lots of things that I took offense to.
Yeah. But anyway. So, but having said that, like I think for me, what's interesting is like the idea of being it made me realize the idea of being on the outside is just, I guess, something that I just assumed. Like I was always gonna, be on the outside. Even as a kid, like I was an outsider. Like people reminded me of that, and I think.
What did they say?
Well, also, I mean, I'm like I come from. I'm coming from the Soviet Union in like the 80s.
Okay.
So I'm spending my childhood in the 80s.
Was it extra harsh?
It was pretty, I mean, like there were kids who didn't talk to me and call me commie, and
see, that's just crazy
it was
to me.
sort of weird. But I mean, there are lots. I also had friends. I mean, these are the things you remember, but like the reality is I had friends like everybody else. I just think like you come, my experience was just, I guess the things that I latched onto were different. So, but I'm super curious about about the things that you latched onto with this movie. Like what?
Well, referencing what you just said, there's a beginning scene. She's explaining that, we're Greek. You come through the house, Chicago suburbs, and you've got the Greek statues in front there and the gigantic flag of Greece.
And like their house having these weird Corinthian columns.
Sure.
I don't know if they were Corinthian, but they were columns.
Yeah.
Look vaguely Greek.
Yeah. And that's what was really interesting is that, and then she gets into more details about how she would bring her lunch, this very specific dishes, and all the girls with their blonde hair and their white bread and all this other stuff. I didn't have that because I was quote unquote different, but not. But
really. It wasn't like enough.
No.
But this is actually the interest. Oh, sorry.
Well, no, girls would, people would ask me just like, "Oh, do you speak Spanish or are you Mexican?"
Yeah,
and I would explain, "No, I'm Guamanian," and on a few times, "Oh, Guatemalan." And no, and that happened in the movie.
Yeah, I loved it when they said, I was totally thinking that. Yeah, I was thinking about you, and I was thinking, that's funny that you mentioned that, because I was totally, when I was watching, I was like, I wonder if people have ever said to Diana when she was a kid, like, is that in Guatemala? Yeah. Or like made some Guatemala reference. So when they made a Guatemala reference,
we were 8. We didn't know what Guatemala was.
Oh yeah. Well, nobody really knew what a communist was really when they were 8, making fun of me either. But that's fine. But it's on my show.
We only know what we pick up. But so no, it wasn't really there. You played with people, and you did jump rope, and you did kickball, and you did your things.
And that's actually the thing I find strange in this movie. Like I see where if this really, really worked, this would have really worked for me as a one-man show, like a one-woman show.
It was.
Yeah, exactly. I think I would have enjoyed the hell out of it. But I think what bugs me is it's Chicago. Mm-hmm. There has to be more Greek children that went to that public school.
Well,
it's Chicago. There's a pretty sizable Greek population.
Sure.
Just her cousins alone. Where did her cousins go to school at this time?
Greek school?
No, Greek school was after school.
No, I know.
But that's fine. Oh, sorry. That was a joke. I'm sorry. I was getting all literal. No, that's the thing. It's there's things about it that just didn't, I think, work as...
That's actually an interesting point.
There's a lot of logistical problems.
There's
with
a couple
movie.
so they...
For me.
Yeah, she's got tons of cousins. Where did they go to school?
Where did they go to school?
They live close to each other. They have the businesses, and they're constantly with one another. Where did they go? Okay, I'm going to play the cousins were different ages, therefore they all couldn't have been at the same time.
Maybe.
Okay.
But wouldn't there be other Greeks or other people who weren't blonde at the school?
Well, you know what?
I mean, there is getting played really broadly, right?
There it is.
They're putting out there, Shao was saying to me, it was because I was getting all like fired up, and I think he was just tired. And he's like, well, it's being played really broadly, right? I mean, and it's true. Like, they're trying to establish she is a stranger. You know what I mean? Or she's on the outside.
Well, playing broadly, and also it's enhanced from your memory's eye.
That is true. That is a good point.
Mm-hmm.
That is a good point.
No, it's like, I'm sorry for this particular cliche. No, I wasn't fat back then. But you look at pictures, you're like, oh no, I was perfectly healthy. But of course, but you are a monster.
Gigantic.
Gigantic.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So her Greekness exploded among all the white blonde girls around her. There you go.
And it's true. Because it's true. Like, and I think, oh, I remember all these incidents, but I'm like, well, actually, I had friends. Mm-hmm. I mean, not during that. There was like time I didn't, because I was kind of being ostracized because apparently the Soviets shut down a Korean plane. I don't know.
Topical?
Yeah. I know, isn't that weird?
No.
This was like in the 80s, but anyway.
No, I assumed as much.
But yeah, it's just, everything old is new again.
Well, maybe.
The 80s are really in right now.
Mom jeans.
So, okay,
So you get the basic ideas of her background. She grows up. She works at her family's business. And that's another thing that kind of, came back to me. I'm just like, okay, fine. A few more steps. She sees in the diner, Mr. Ian Miller. He comes in. He looks at her. She's starstruck, which is, she's awestruck. How about that? He's not a star. Although John Corbett is very cool. He was in the peak of his Sex in the City fame.
Well, I remember him from Northern Exposure. Because I also didn't watch Sex and the City until very recently.
Oh, okay.
So I was super into Northern Exposure. I loved Northern Exposure.
Well, there you go.
So that's why I really
John Corbett of John Corbett fame.
Yeah.
We'll do that. And then so he looks at her, and that's just kind of an interesting moment where she sees him, and some people would take that as of course, she sees the man and then she decides to do that. I'm like, no, she had a moment, and then from that moment on, she decides that she doesn't want to keep doing what she's doing.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily have to make that connection, but for the purposes of the movie, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But if you have to pay really close attention to look at the timelines of what's happening. Because it just seems like, boom, they get married, or sorry, spoiler. Boom, boom, they meet.
Well, I mean, it is in the title. I frankly...
Wow, one step above the trailer. So they meet, or they don't meet. They see each other. They meet, but time frames. She's in school. She's making these transitions. She only saw him once, and they heighten it for the movie. But she's decided that she doesn't want to do these things with her life anymore. Working for her family.
But she actually did that before she saw him, because she has the
she had the
flyer
for the college,
which is also very strange. Like, really, your parents don't want her to go to like community college?
There could be a couple of different reasons, but the father says straight outright.
Oh yeah. She's smart enough for a girl.
In two different places, she's smart enough for a girl, and then when this whole thing starts to explode of her dating somebody who's not Greek, this is what happens when you educate women.
When you educate women.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess so.
Problems, but
it is 2002 when this movie comes out, so it's kind of. It does seem odd that they still would have had this educate women.
Well, again,
this never came up in this gigantic family. I mean, gigantic family that nobody else would have. At the very least, you have someone who went to, cosmetology school.
That's
her cousin.
Well, that's different.
Actually, I don't know if she ever went.
Well, I don't think it has to do with it being female or male. It has to do with she's going to leave me. Yeah. And that is a big line in the movie. Yeah. Okay, what was I getting? I forget already. That's going to happen a lot because there's just so much to unpack. John Corbett has been introduced. He is... What's amazing is that he's not a heartthrob, but he's he's a kind of a special place in your heart. I'll say.
Oh, that's really nicely put.
you.
No, he does. He totally and he totally does have. He just has that now. John. Well, he's a nice guy. He's got floppy hair. We all know how I feel about floppy hair.
Well, you saw Sex in the City. Did you have that moment where he reappeared and he cut his hair?
Oh my God, I don't even remember having that moment. I think I was just happy to see him. I was like, I don't care. I'll get some John Corbett.
I remember same friends that I watched My Big Fat Greek Wedding with. It's just like, oh, wow. Oh, he's back. He got rid of the hair.
The hair was really good. I was really into that kind of hair.
The long hair?
I'm still the long hair.
No, that was what we were so excited about. He got rid of that crappy long hair.
Oh, really?
No, we did not care for that.
In this movie, I have to say, his hair is terrible.
I didn't like it in general. So
I always like, I don't know. I like hair. It's nice. I mean, I like short hair too. I don't know. I like the feeling of hair. Like it's a nice thing. So I was like imagining, playing with this hair.
I worked in a salon for 2 years, so I developed an appreciation for short, tight haircuts.
Not into it.
Well, no, you don't have to be. This is me. We're talking about me right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
focus.
Yeah.
My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Mine.
So yeah, I do. I just find it funny because I always thought that was the thing that you like, that one likes about John Corbett. Like I sort of thought the hair was like a primary feature. That's why I'm following up on it.
Okay, so speaking of what's happening, so they start dating. She hides the dating from him. Oh no, I'm sorry. Even further back, she kind of goes through her own transition. And what's great is that I don't think this is a montage, but this is not a makeover montage, even though it is. You see her trying to do it, but it's her evolving. And what's interesting is that she's trying to make up for the fact that she didn't have this whole thing when she was younger. So she's trying the hair. She's trying that. What most girls probably go through over the course of, 13 to 20. Figuring it out, evolving what's like. Because there is this scene. It isn't so much the whole, oh my God, the contact in my eye, ow. It was trying on a different outfit and then that smile that leaves your face when you find a combination that makes you feel just a little bit prettier.
Yeah, it's funny because so when I was watching that, I actually thought it was a really good makeup montage because of that. You're right. Because it's not like no one just arrives going like, hey, I know how to put on eyeliner or figuring out what looks good. It's like there's a lot of variables, right? And it does seem very realistic to
slowly evolve.
Because she starts with the glasses. She's still wearing the glasses, and then one day she's like, hey, let's do this. Like she tries different lipsticks, she tries different clothes. And so rewatching it, I really like that moment at the end of that montage where she like looks in the mirror and she looks happy at herself, and it's like a really nice thing where she allows herself the smile of pride, and then she very quickly right before they cut goes into this like, well, I mean, it's okay. Like there's a really nice kind of very realistic thing about like
I found another, not this is now my full wardrobe, this is now my full look. It was all right, awesome, I found something that
but she wasn't like, wow, I'm so I'm so gorgeous. It was like a moment of like, no, this is good. Like it's good enough. Yeah. Like it's not, and she goes back to feeling a little insecure by the end of that little moment. Yeah. Which I really, really liked. Like it seemed very realistic.
Especially since she also knows that, cool, I found a little something that makes me feel better, but that doesn't change me as a person. Yeah. So, she's still working on that. And this is also intercut with her going back to school. Yeah. So she's learning more. She's meeting
But I mean, she's going to school for the first time, right? She's not going back to school.
Well,
because like, I mean, if he really,
well, that's
why would she have gone to school the first time?
Well, I'm talking about post high school. Yeah. So she may or may not have gone afterwards. So when I say back to school, I mean since the school. Hey, she's at a Greek school.
That's true. She's at Greek school.
She was at Greek school, so she's clear. Yeah. Oh, because her dad dropped her off with the girls in the backseat to school.
Yeah, so but I mean like college. I guess that's what I was thinking. I was thinking you were saying, she's going back to college.
No, she's
after
going back
being
to school.
out.
No, a learning environment. How about that?
Yeah.
So, and in addition to that,
she's learning travel and computers.
I thought that would date it, and it kind of did, but at the same time, it didn't feel horrible.
It actually dated it, I think, in the most charming way possible.
Exactly.
Because seeing that travel and computers
wasn't distracting.
It was great. It was really fun. It was like, oh my God, they really like, it was like, well, we need someone who knows how to use a computer. Now, I will question that in 2002, there's no one who's using a computer, but okay. I mean, I'll buy it. It's a great premise, but it's kind of fun to see that style. It was that style of flyer. I loved it.
Well, I'm gonna give them a little bit of glimpse behind the computer. Plano, we all can't be those who work in computers up to our elbows every day.
Well, no, I mean, but people were.
No. I'm talking about specifically to what you do, because
No, but I mean, using a computer. Like, I mean, almost all. It is 2002, right? I mean, we're not talking about programming computers. We're talking about like. We're talking about word processing system, like software. We're talking about people who, I mean, right? It's not like 2002 was a time that maybe even if you didn't own a personal computer, though.
But she's 30 in 2002. So what I'm saying is, back to my dad again.
Mm-hmm.
My dad used to have this running gag that says we should take all the computers and throw them in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And so I understand it, I get it. But even though my dad hated computers,
Mm-hmm.
that didn't stop him from putting one in the house with us because
Yeah.
it was happening, and I grew up on one.
Yeah.
And I was always the kid that knew what to do
Yep.
in the computer lab beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
So did you have computer labs? Because
We had computer labs. I mean, I will admit, my parents are both software engineers.
There it is. That's what I wanted you to admit.
I'm going to admit it,
yeah,
because I was not going to be a software engineer, and now I'm a software engineer. Well, so I had one when I was 12. I'll give you that, but as a result, I also didn't have. I also like had the ones that were really, really old and really hard to use because cobbler's children. But I think, but I just feel like 2002 was a time where people used. There were POS systems in restaurants. There were. I mean, I worked in a restaurant. That's actually in 2002. I didn't. I went back to one, but I didn't have a POS. But there's just a lot of. There was just. It seems an odd year, but I'm not going to. I'm going to move on.
Step back into 2002, Plano, with me.
Okay.
Cell phones are not as prevalent. There is no such thing as an iPhone.
No.
Android.
No.
Was something like out of the Terminator world. So
Okay.
remember.
But I remember computers in people's offices.
In the offices, but not in our pocket. Never mind.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue technology software engineer parents.
Well, just because I mean, I'm just saying, like, if it was 1994, I'd be like, of course. But anyway,
okay.
I think we should move back on.
So
to
she's learning the computer
and the love.
She's working at her aunt's travel agency,
Mm-hmm.
and so there's this interesting interslice of. The mother is very understanding because there is this very touching scene where she wants to learn. Her father just kind of craps on it. And also the son, her younger brother, wants to do some art. And every time he brings up some sort of drawing for the new menu, his father just kind of grunts. And so that's just, not paying attention to it. So it's there. It's, this cliche, we'll call it, the kids don't want to do what the parents think is right and proper.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole basis of this movie. But it's also like the oldest sister, the perfect older sister with her 3 kids who married a Greek boy and makes Greek babies
and married young
and all this other stuff. So but the thing is like it still maintains the family, and that's another thing that I thought was really great as it went along. It took a really long time to establish this family because let's be honest, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, this is not about romance is in there, but it interplays with your family and how that works. And I have problems with that, but I also have so much sympathy for it as well because I love my family. We're a big family. And I'm not even talking about the outside family. I'm talking about my core.
Yeah.
Youngest of 4. I love my parents. I love my siblings. Shout out to my brother who downloaded our entire catalog the other day.
Oh, no, that story, like, actually your family's reaction to this podcast is like a constant source of just joy and pleasure.
My family's reaction to this podcast is an entire podcast by itself. Yeah. But that's okay. So let's, never mind. Little glimpses of my family. If you watch this movie, you'll get it. Except my father, very supportive, and my mother. Not my mother. The mother in this movie. I called her the hero of this movie because she wants her daughter to have what she wants, but she also have the glimpses of, okay, you're having a romance. I get it. It ends now. And I'm like, oh, but at the same time, that's her being pulled in two different directions. So I really sympathized with it. Her whole thing of like, she knows her husband, I am the head of the household. I love that line of like, yeah, the man is the head, but the woman's the neck. And like, that's just so great because it's not like a something you stick on a meme or something. That's just your family just.
Well, I mean, it's just interesting. It's really an interesting way. What she's essentially saying is like, she's found her way to be
part of this
powerful without like within these strictures, right? And because obviously she's like, yeah, okay, we have all these crazy theories, but like in reality, on a day-to-day, in the day-to-day world, I am just like, this is how I negotiate. These are my negotiating tactics.
And that's part of a marriage. And so that's why I thought it was a wonderful dynamic. And so the mother, she lets her do this. So now our main character is working in the oh my God, travel agency. I was going to say tourism bureau. Mount Olympus Travel Agency.
Well, and that's what's cool. So she takes this class, and she basically, in the most ridiculous way possible, gets her aunt, who is played by Andrea Martin, who I love so much. I have so much love for Andrea Martin. She always plays these like horrible women, but I love them. I love them so much, and she's so. I mean, actually, I have to say the supporting cast in this, Lainie Kazan is hysterical. That she's the mom. She's so good. Supporting casts are great, and
absolutely. And that's the heart of this particular movie. It's the fact that everyone brings their own thing. There's no one squashed to the side, and that's kind of interesting because that is what happens in a family. Everyone's pushing to the front.
Yeah,
but they're not. They're actually working in tandem, and it makes such a good thing. So. Again, it's family, and then John Corbett comes in, and you get to see this tiny glimpse of not dating a Greek person, and she does it in secret, and then it's.
But
really
this is the ridiculous part. That's like, it's a pottery class. She keeps saying she's going to pottery classes, which like she never brings home. It's such a ridiculous excuse. She never brings home any pottery, and it's not like, are they dating every Tuesday night? Like,
okay, so she needed a better lie.
She needs a much better lie.
Well, whatever. Have you ever? No, I won't even.
Oh no, I did. I snuck it. I mean, but I never said I was going to pottery club.
Well, no.
I lied all the time.
Well, that's just it though. There's lying to your, there's sneaking out, and then there's sneaking out right in front of their face. Because I did that. I was not going to lie to my parents, so I got it. I never. There's dating was all that interesting, and we're very, very open, and we share a whole bunch of other stuff. So, I was going, but I would, Mom, going out with friends. That's it.
Yeah.
That was it.
Oh, I did that. Yeah. And I think at some point they didn't really
Not
ask.
that I, tried to, okay. The reason that I didn't get all upfront about how I'm seeing somebody was because I didn't know where it was going, and I didn't want to get any.
You want to get your family involved.
No, it wasn't. I didn't want to get my family involved. I didn't want them to. So how's this guy? What's his name? It isn't so much like what I didn't think there would be the whole when do we get to meet him thing like this over abrasive family would be. I was afraid of getting the whole so how's it's the same way that I started grad school, and then when I stopped grad school, I was tired of seeing people at big family functions. How's grad school going? Yeah. I don't want to talk about it. So yeah, and having your family very involved, it's again because there's just only so much space in the home. I liked to keep everything just kind of close to the vest. Yeah. So that's how I did it. So she starts to see him, and it is an inevitable wedding right in the title. So this is where I started to get a little bit upset, and it was kind of a problem when I was first dating Ryan. John Corbett is this, I'm sure there's a TV trope thing of it, he's just like the perfect guy. And when I say the perfect guy, I'm not talking about being a lawyer just wasn't for me, so I decided to be a teacher. No, I'm talking, which he actually was that guy, but he's the whole, no, I'll get baptized in the Greek Orthodox Church for you because I just want to be with you, and your family is part of you, and we're going to be a part of that. She wants to, after he proposes, and that's another thing that's amazing about this movie. Their love story is just, it's there because the movie is about the family. So it's just, they're there, they're together. It's beautiful. It's very, it's very natural.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a progression of just like, yeah, you go on dates and then you keep going on dates and then you spend all this time together and then you realize you'd rather spend more time with each other than away from each other.
Yep.
And then you decide to get married.
I did like that part of it. The pacing of the romance is actually makes sense in a way that a lot of the movies that we've watched don't. Like, I have to say, I mean, I feel like it's in a weird way, neither of their characters are like fully fleshed out.
There's no grand romantic gesture.
Yeah, but I love like the way he asks her to marry him, though.
It's so just irritating in the way that would never happen in the movies, but yeah, no, that would happen in real life. Yeah. But I don't want to see that in my movies.
He clearly, like, it is a little weird. Like, you think that he would have planned at least, because he got the ring. It wasn't a, like, spontaneous, wow. Like, we just had this amazing event together. We just had this amazing event together. It was like, he had the ring. He never, like, so that was a little strange, but it also kind of fit into their thing that it was very intimate and it was very theirs. Because I think in a way, like, that's what's interesting about her stepping away from the real difference is that they, is having something that is private and yours.
Oh, yes.
Was such a big culture change.
I spoke to that really, really importantly because so in this particular scene, they're in bed together and they're just lying there. He's lying on top of her and it's just like, they're just kind of relishing the moment. And he's just like,
presumably after sex.
Don't tarnish this, Polina.
Why is that tarnishing it? That's nice.
Because the movie.
I don't understand why having sex tarnishes it. I'm sorry.
My big fat Greek wedding.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough.
My Catholic family.
Try to explain. We don't talk about these things. But you explain to me why that tarnishes it. No, I'm really curious.
No, I was just
okay.
No, it doesn't.
But I mean, no. But that's actually interesting. Like, no. Why do you think? Do you feel that way?
Do I need to repeat the word Catholic again?
That's true. Well, you have to explain it to me, I guess.
What whole of keep these things? I didn't tell them about his existence until.
Yeah.
Actually, okay, I'm sorry. I apologize to the Catholics. That's a half and half thing. Catholic, where we don't really talk about those things because we're Catholics, sex doesn't exist. But it's also, that's my business. That's not anyone else's business.
No, but I mean, in the context of that movie, I understand not telling your parents. Like, this is one thing about American family is like really weird. My family is really pretty open and very pretty touchy-feely, but not, I mean, physically touchy. But like, it was, and that was like a big transition for Sean, who is sort of on the kind of Scots-Irish waspier side, even though it's California, so I guess it doesn't. But so he like, I had to basically tell him like, you need to, like, my parents think that you hate me. You have to touch me more when we're together. I don't mean like make out with me, but just like you have to like hold my hand. You have to go because. My parents are like, I don't think this guy likes you. But he thought, oh, I'm being really respectful. Because I'm not touching their daughter.
In front of them. Oh, no.
And my parents are like, he won't. And plus, like, yeah. And he just because. And so it's like those really interesting cultural differences, which when are difficult to skate through,
When Ryan's sister brought home someone she was dating, he had his arm around her, and I'm like, what's happening right now? I don't understand, because we didn't do that in front of his parents. We'd already been together for 4 years, and I don't think we made it a point to not be near each other while his parents were around, just to be safe.
Oh. Yeah. Talk like that stuff's really interesting. Like,
I don't want them talking that I was being horrifically inappropriate by, hugging her son in front of her. I'm sorry.
Because you're reminding them that you have sex.
Why did he want to leave me?
Yeah. Oh, so it's not about the physical gesture. It's about it's about like, oh, I have an owner, like reminding her that, we used to ownership.
Have this, I used to joke with my family that all four of us were just immaculate conceptions because our parents don't It's really cute when I watch my parents hold hands now. I'm just like, look at them. They're so cute. But back then, be like, Mom, Dad,
Oh,
ew.
of course. It's,
You're embarrassing me by holding hands in public.
I know. Well, whatever. Teenagers, the worst. We were the worst.
Well, okay. So back to the movie. They're getting together. They're getting married. When the wedding planning started, the whole, we have to invite these people. I don't know who they are. And then the sister chimes in, they're my family. What's wrong with you? Yeah. And it was just so funny because we were together for 9 years. And when all the wedding planning started, I had a vision. Again, it's a vision of this is what I want our wedding to be because it's you and me. But then as it opened up, it's a family celebration. And I laughed so hard when she walked down the aisle and the groom side was 3 rows and the other side was completely packed. And
we didn't even do that because it would have been, we would have been 5 people. Like my family is, I don't have any cousins, not one.
I don't understand.
I have literally none.
I don't understand.
I guess there's a part of the family that my father's estranged from.
I don't understand.
And I think I could have a cousin on that side. There's family in Israel, but I do not. My father estranged himself from his father.
Oh, okay. What's funny
for good? I mean, for reasons I support. So.
I don't see my cousins very often, but there are. Sadly, it's all the number of events that happen.
Yeah,
the weddings have stopped. So that means the big excuses for everyone to come together. I have a hard time justifying Christmas and Easter because I'm married now. So I have in-laws as well as my family, as well as the extended family on my dad's side, extended family on my mom's side. So it just, as it grows, it gets really difficult.
Because you guys live, I mean, your families, you and your husband's families, you guys just live near each other.
Well,
somewhat. Like at least your immediate family.
Yeah.
You each live
20-minute drive away.
20-minute drive. See, I live across the country from my parents, but I live 45 minutes from Sean's parents.
So
from Sean's mom.
It's an interesting dynamic. So this is getting so deep in. Damn this movie. Damn its parallels.
I think I'm gonna have a part 2.
Nope, we shan't part 2. All
We're
right,
gonna
moving
have
on.
part 2. No, there's so much here for you because I've never seen you be this excited about one of the movies. I don't know if it's the Pop sandwiches. Shout out to Pops. Pops in Twin Peaks.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor at all, but we're open.
Okay. So like I said, this movie, this is the beginning of my romantic life.
So this is the first movie you're really seeing. This is the first romantic movie that you're seeing.
Ryan,
when you're actually experiencing romance for the first time, it's not just in your head in real life.
No, in real time. It's the one that.
God.
Well, it also speaks to me again that he has his family, his very small mom, dad, sister. I come over and they do have their family events, but it's very quiet. And I'm just like, come over to my house. You got my brother and his kids, and my sister and her kids, and then my brother's back in. He's in town and he's got his kids, and they're everywhere. My parents are also there, and we're all crammed into this tiny dining room, and we're just all together, and it's just I love it so much.
Oh my God.
But I'm worried that it's going to overwhelm him because he's used to his mom and his dad and his sister, and I'm here as well. Hi everybody. I've met everyone, and if he's lucky, because the kids are running around. I'm just like, okay, so that was my sister's. Okay, never mind. When I brought him to our big family reunion on my mom's side, there were so many people, I didn't even bother trying to introduce him to people. I'm like, let's go to the food. Who we catch is who we catch. I don't want the food to run out.
Wow.
And it was
smart. You're good that way. Yeah. I agree. I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah, and if we start working our way to the food now, we will be hungry by the time we get to it because we will be stopped by all these different people. And it's just, I have such a big family, and it's really awesome.
So this is also like, it's fine. This movie reminded me of... we're talking about Monsoon Wedding, which is actually a movie. I love Monsoon Wedding.
Who are you talking to?
What?
What?
The movie Monsoon Wedding.
No, I know.
It was like around the same time.
Oh, I'm unfamiliar with it.
It's really good, but it's kind of the same thing. It's around a big family and it's around their wedding. And the one thing that I have to say, is I think my issue with this movie is that it actually doesn't feel like she loves her family. Like the way that you talk about your family,
I love my family.
Is great. I mean, in the way you're talking about it now. So maybe it's my interpretation because this is interesting because this is one of those movies about it's a movie about big families.
Oh, absolutely.
And watching it again,
and if I may
that's
interrupt
the
you,
fun part.
Yeah, oh, that's absolutely what the fun part. So if I may, as we cover every single time, they get married, they have the reception. When did they fall in love? Well, they fell in love in that movie. It was very, very tiny, but it was there in the time frame. So I can't pinpoint it.
Oh, I know
happened.
exactly when they fell in love.
Oh, when they said "I love you"?
No. Are we at that point?
No, I'm trying to get there too, because I'm trying to say, like, this movie doesn't have the traditional things of the big grand romantic gesture. Although you could say when he said, "I will marry," oh God, I will marry you.
He got beat up by an old lady for her.
That wasn't for her. That was just circumstances. No, I would say he put up with her brother teaching him
Oh my God.
Greek and embarrassing himself. And the thing is, he still had a smile on his face when, okay, I need to back up again.
Yeah.
Joey Fatone in this movie. And I forgot, one of the things that I absolutely loved about that is her younger brother giving him so much crap. And I had to watch it 4 more times because there was so much layered in there where he's just like, no, seriously, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna, if anything, no, but seriously, if you ever hurt my sister.
No, that whole scene.
I got you again. And it's just
seriously. And then he keeps getting one of the cousins involved. Like basically him and obviously they're like super close. And him and the cousin are always like he's clearly planned out this whole thing because he always gets the cousin in.
Of course. And just that, and it just got me. I forgot about it. I loved it. Ian, we're gonna kill ya.
But you really, I mean, I have to say that's one of the times that you really sense that they love each other. Like that is one of the relationships that, like, I feel like
that's a big thing in my family. If we are busting each other's chops, we love you. If we don't bother,
that's totally my family.
Yeah,
that's how my father. I mean, the way because no one can ever say in my family like, hey, I mean, they'll say I love you, like we say I love you all the time, but no one's like, hey, I'm proud of you. Like it's like I'm seeing it. See, even as saying that, I'm totally like, God, you didn't hear me. Like it's, even though we were really, we're practice. I mean, we did a lot of Jewish holidays, but mostly as a community thing. We and other holidays as mostly as just because we love holidays. But we're a really big holiday family, even though we're tiny. And we really like, you just can't say positive things without, it's like cursing the gods, or like it's the gods will curse you. There's this weird.
Is that a concern that something positive was said, therefore something has to happen to cancel it out?
Totally. Like you're basically calling attention to it.
Oh.
You're calling attention to it and they will find you, there's like, fate will find you. So it was always, my family was always teasing each other. And I remember like going to people's houses and that was the thing that always felt weird to me was, I mean, I knew that they weren't going to eat the same food. We ate, like, it wasn't like we didn't eat American food. We ate a ton of, but it wasn't as extreme. But I just like, the one thing was that their parents didn't like tease them. They wouldn't say negative things to them. And especially in front of, another person. And so when the Cosby Show came on, this is when we were all pro Cosby, terrifyingly pro Cosby. I was like, oh my God, this is the first, that family actually seemed like my family because they were teasing each other. Yeah. They were kind of being like, they were just teasing each other mercilessly. So the father would tease the kid. And the thing is, I was really, especially my father. We did a lot of stuff together, my family and I did love them and I loved spending time with them. Mostly because we did try to do fun stuff.
Oh yeah. We had the family vacations and the just the family traditions that are kind of amazing. So
you liked your spending time with your family a lot more than
growing up, it was. What's weird is that it's kind of a blur because not only my closest sibling is 5 years older than me, so
Tula, not Nia.
What?
Tula, her name is.
Oh, Tula, yeah. No, so my closest sibling is 5 years older than me. And so she graduated college before I graduated from high school. Yeah. And so they were out and gone. And so I managed to have the family dynamics and being close to my family while simultaneously growing up kind of like an only child. Because they were out and gone.
Oh, nice.
And so
and you were the baby. And so people weren't like, oh my God, we better get this one right. You got, your parents were probably a lot more chill.
I don't want this to sound as terrible as it does, but according to my siblings, I was the easy kid. because they would claim that they would like, do all this horrible stuff, which I don't know if it was all that horrible because I wasn't there.
Yeah.
But they'll tell stories around the table of just like, oh, we did all this and did that. And then you came along and you were like, good grades and stayed at home and all this other stuff. And I think mom and dad needed that break. Like, okay, thanks. I'll take your compliment.
No, that's nice. I don't think that sounds horrible.
Right now I'm thinking the Catholic God is going to smite me for saying something positive.
See? We all have it. That's the one thing we all have in common.
Are you talking about guilt?
Yeah, this like sense of like...
So you mean to tell me that Catholics and Jewish people have guilt?
Yeah, and I will say my mother is not Jewish, which is what makes the whole Jewish thing kind of complicated.
Interesting.
But my mother is, she's not anything because my parents are both atheists, but she's a Russian Orthodox by religion.
Did you have anything in the Orthodox scenes? Was anything speaking to
Oh,
you?
yeah. I mean, I've been to those churches. We didn't go very often, I mean, to be honest. But I really I was a religions minor. I was really fascinated by religion. So I went to a lot of different churches. But yeah, Russian and Greek Orthodox are very similar. So those, the really... I don't think I went to one Russian Orthodox wedding, but we weren't related to them. It was a friend.
Well, here's something. Ian gets baptized, and you got his godmother and Nikki, the cousin. One of the things I do love about that is when the parents come in and John Corbett's parents come in and get introduced to the whole family. Mm-hmm. And this is my brother's kids, Anita, Diane, and Nick. And this is my other brother and his kids, Anita, Diane, and Nick. Nick, mm-hmm. Nikki, and me. I am Gus.
Yeah, I love the Gus. Yeah, no, it's just fun. And I also, actually, that whole scene bugged me. Oh. When I loved, when they...
The goat on the spit bugged you?
Oh, God, no, it wasn't a goat, it was a lamb.
A lamb.
It was a baby lamb.
On the spit.
Oh, my God, it looked really good. No, I was, starving. I was starving. It looked so good. Okay,
the food was everywhere. Go ahead.
The whole thing, yeah. And I think she when she describes her family, she's like,
oh, I love that scene so much.
We eat.
I have 27 cousins, and my dad. I mean, okay, no, we didn't do the gross stuff, where what is it? The goat eyeball. My aunt would say, "Eat the goat eyeball," because it'll make you smart.
Yours? What?
No, that's in the scene.
Oh, I forgot.
That's not my family.
We eat all sorts of crazy stuff, but I have an eyeball thing, so I couldn't even watch the contact lens scene. I actually had to have Sean watch it for me.
Okay, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No. God, where was I?
The crazy family description.
Well, so I feel like, why didn't he warn her that his family they were just the nastiest, most horrible people.
That's what I wanted to ask
Why would you show up? Like they show up and, okay, maybe you were expecting dinner and there was a barbecue, but there's a friggin' barbecue. Mm-hmm. Why would you have this look on your face that's like, ew, these crazy people? Again, they live in Chicago. They live in a large city. In theory, they would have run across a fair or some gathering with more than 5 people at some point. But they literally are they have this expression. And also, she, at some point in the thing, they hand her spanakopita. Or spanakopita, wherever. And they're shocked at someone hands you a delicious looking baked good and you're like, I do not know what to do with this. It's ridiculous. Why did he ever say, when he described his parents, was he like, they're terrible, snobby, horrible, mean people? I don't understand this at all. That had no emotional truth. That irritated me about this movie.
Okay, so I'm going to come to the defense of the Wasps. Number one, they just heard this horrific story about a twin being grown out of a neck.
Okay,
of
that
is
a good point.
Thank
that
you.
is a good point. I don't know if they heard it before the spanakopita, but why were they so shocked at seeing it? And presumably at some point,
because she just told the story and then offered the food.
Yes, that is gross. Okay, I didn't think about that. You are right. But why, when meeting them, would they present this
bundt cake?
That was so weird because okay, they have lived in the U.S. forever. They own a diner. Mm-hmm. A diner. At some point, they would have seen a cake that was maybe not a bundt cake, but was close to a bundt cake. At some point, they would have gone to a supermarket and seen a ring-like cake. Like, it made it seem, I mean, maybe they didn't know what a bundt cake was, like the name bundt.
Yeah.
But it just is an improbable kind of reaction. Like, that is why I think it works better at, like, when you're seeing the reaction, it seems just awful.
Okay.
And rude and horrible. And you're like, these are nasty people who turn their nose up at everything.
Wait, so here's my question. Are you talking about both sets of parents right now? Because you said, why didn't you describe your parents as horrible and rude? So you got his parents that are just like, what the hell is happening right now? And then you have her parents.
No, I mean,
saying,
why didn't he describe her, like, before introducing his parent, when talking about his parents,
okay,
why did he not go, my parents are these incredibly rude people?
because he doesn't know that that's rude. That's just as it is.
But I mean, who doesn't think that? I mean, manners is about, at its best, manners are about expressing, showing, making people feel comfortable.
I don't think they've had practice because they haven't had to make people feel comfortable.
Yeah, but like, I mean, they're living in a city. Like, why is it so crazy
If
that
I
there's
may play the white devil's advocate for a
yes,
minute here,
please.
Paulina.
That makes no sense to me.
It doesn't make sense to you because in the large family, there's so much to be interpreted with what you say and what you do. And also, I'm going to give you this, the story of the twin growing out of the neck.
Okay, that was appalling.
No, that was appalling. But at the same time, I imagine her family has heard that story over and over again. That's one side of the spectrum. The other side of the spectrum is big, loud, what's happening? All these flashings of things. There's a pig on the there's a lamb on the spit. All of this is
Pig
happening.
would have been good too.
If
Actually, goat. I'm willing to take anything on a spit.
If you're completely overwhelmed, and you know what else? I'm going to play this card as well. They're probably introverts.
I think they are because
They're
they don't talk.
introverts, and they just can't. They can't
That may
handle
be
it,
That
and
may
that
be
makes them.
But
rude.
I guess like
And practice.
I get it later. But literally when they're walking up, there is nothing really that horrifying going on.
Barbecuing in the front yard.
Well, where are you going to barbecue?
In the backyard. See, this is my private family thing. You have your big parties in the back, and you
I
don't
agree
disturb
that
your
you don't
neighbors.
do. I agree. Okay,
There's
I
a
am
hole
with you.
in the front lawn, Paulina.
I agree with you. Like, why didn't they put it in the back? But
I'm not,
regardless,
this has
you're
nothing-
visiting a.
And this go.
You're visiting. Just gonna say this one. You're visiting. This was when they got out of the car. I get it later, but this is when they get out of the car. They go like this. They like. Sorry, I'm doing a facial expression, which does not help in a podcast. No, they literally sneer. There is actual sneering.
I will. No, they were. I feel it absolutely. The mother had some issues. We didn't even get to the wedding.
No, this is so funny. We actually have to go.
We did not.
So we're gonna. I think we're gonna have. This is a rich. I'm gonna have to.
She's calling it. She's calling it part 2.
I'm calling it part 2.
Okay.
There's so much here that we have yet to discuss.
All right, I'll dig up some old photos of my wedding.
Oh, I've seen photos of your wedding. They're friendly and they delight me. They make me so happy.
Hey, Pauline and I would love to hear from you. Tweet us at HEAMCast or email us at contact@heamcast.com. Thanks for listening.